Hey guys, Sherm here, and today I'm going to be testing the McLaren F1 LM in multiplayer in Asphalt 9 in its multiplayer season at Golden Max. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and consider following my new channel Instagram, which I will put a link to in the description, and please enjoy the video. So in this video are 8 races, many of them sequential, in my path to Elite League in this car season. And I will say, some of the ones in here are some of the closest ones that I have had all in a row for quite some time now, and I know this car is very exciting to a lot of people, especially after the performance stats have come out and we've seen how it can do on some tracks against cars like the Huracan, because I believe it beat the Huracan on 1,000 minarets by like a second and a half or something, which is extremely significant, and this car is definitely going to be the new king of Class B on the majority of tracks, if not all of them, because the thing about it is, while it does have that poor acceleration, it doesn't really hamper it a lot. You don't really see that come into play a lot. It is similar to the Corvette in that aspect. You may know that that car doesn't have a great acceleration. Also, maybe you didn't know that because, well, it doesn't seem all that bad. Now, some reasons for that in part are that it has really good nitro efficiency and really good drifting, which allows it to maintain a high speed around corners, so it doesn't have to accelerate as much out of them to get back up to its top speed. This car is pretty much the same way. It has very good drifting, quite strong nitro efficiency. I mean, not quite as good as the Corvette. This car is not as agile as the Corvette, but it is still definitely a very agile car overall and a very easy one to drive. It is also quite stable, and its top speed is higher than definitely any other car in Class B, and quite possibly every other one in Class A. It's very close to cars like the Valhalla and the 570S in terms of the top speed. 244 miles per hour at max, and even at lower stars, 3 stars, which is what I have it at right now and will probably try to win it at, it can go 238 miles per hour. So even at only half stars, it still goes faster than almost all of the other B-class cars in the game, which is pretty crazy, and at 3 stars it actually drives okay as well. This thing is going to be very powerful. It is definitely a good one to spend your tokens on to try to get in the Grand Prix. I would definitely recommend starring it up to 3 stars or 4 if you can, because that is when it really starts to get good. Once you get to the 3-star level, at 2 and 1 stars it's not all that great, but it becomes a completely different animal at higher stars. And I hope to show you in this video that this car is just very good all around, and is definitely one of the cars that I underestimated the most, along with the Apex actually, in Asphalt 9 history. And this race begins a sequence of 6 sequential races in my path to Elite League. You're going to want to stick around for some very close races against other Legions United members and some pro team members as well. And remember, this season everybody is in the same car, so it is pretty much completely skill based, except in the times where people get knocked down, but I don't think there were knockdowns in any of these races, or really wrecks for that matter. So yeah, just very skill-based all around, and these are some of my favorite seasons, both because of that and because we get to test out new cars at max. I think Gameloft realized that these seasons were actually a very, very good way to advertise their new cars, because after people drive one of these cars at max, they will really want to get it if it is a very good car. Like the Apex, for example, that car did not look great at stock, so if Gameloft hadn't made a season for it, or some way for us to try it out at max, I'm wondering if not as many people would have done the car hunt for it or bought packs for it, as I know some people did. For me, the drop rate was really bad, and I didn't have much time to play it during the week, so unfortunately I did not unlock the Apex car, but I figured that the F1 LM and the Valhalla were more worthwhile to spend tokens on, especially since the F1 LM is definitely better than the Apex overall, and while that car is very good, there's not really much of a need for me to get it since it isn't going to be a king, and I have the Huracan and the Corvette, and so I'm just not really worried that I didn't get it. But I definitely will get a video in the main season for you guys, like I always try to do, even if I do not manage to win the car myself. But I'm definitely going to be trying my very best to win this F1 LM, and possibly the Speedtail as well, if it is actually possible for me to get it with the cars that I have. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not so worried about that one. If I have to forego that one, I will be okay with that. While it is a very good car, it isn't, again, a king of S-Class. It is definitely a lot better than the Lycan, which I compared it to at first, since it is a 6-star car instead of a 5-star car like that one. And this is actually one way that you might be able to tell that cars are going to get better than we might think by their stock stats. This was something that we saw with the Apex, because I compared it to the 4GT Mark II, its stock stats at least, which were very similar. this car, the Apex, actually got much better than the 4GT Mark II did over the time, because it had 5 stars to go up instead of just 4. And that is the kind of thing that you might have to look at for other cars as well. If a car is very similar to another car at stock, you have to look at their star counts as well. And if there is a car that is 5-star versus 4-star, or 6-star versus 5-star, the car with the higher stars is pretty much definitely going to be a good bit of a better car. A lot of people have been asking me recently when I'm going to make an updated version of my best and worst cars in each class list. I will be uploading the 5th version of that, I think it is now, before the next update drops. Now we have a little bit over 3 weeks before the season pass runs out, the current one that's going on, so we're about halfway through this update, and I would say most likely the updated version of the best and worst cars in each class list will come out in 2 to 3 weeks. You have to remember, there have been 15 to 20 new cars added since previously, and we have to figure out where exactly they all fit into the ever-growing list of event cars for each one and multiplayer cars for each class as well. Because if you remember, in the last version of that, we separated them up into 2 lists, one for events and one for multiplayer, because a lot of people had been wanting a separate multiplayer list due to the fact that some cars, while they may be really good for events, might not be so reliable to use in multiplayer. Some classes were very similar, but other ones actually changed around quite a bit. But we will definitely have a new one of those out before the next update. I plan to do those every 4 updates or so, every 6 months about is how it turns out, about the same amount of time as it takes from music video to music video. Now, in my stream this past Saturday, I said that I would be making a video this week about the new track Terra 9 in Asphalt 8. And I tried to do that, actually, like right after the stream. I was going to record a video for that and upload it during the middle of the week. But for whatever reason, when I went into Asphalt 8 after the update, for some reason, I simply could not play any events or any multiplayer or anything like that. Like, literally no events were showing up, even though it said that I had some. Like, it showed an event in the little thing at the bottom of the home screen, but when I clicked on it and actually went to the events, there were none there. So that was very weird, and I simply could not join a multiplayer race at all. I tried to log in with Xbox, it just completely failed to do that, and yeah, so I had no way to actually play the track. So let me know if you guys have any ideas of what might be causing that. Maybe it's just time for me to completely just stop playing Asphalt 8 altogether. Maybe it's a sign or something like that, but I'll definitely try to solve that problem, because I really would like to try that track, because it looks very cool. Definitely the best thing that's come to Asphalt 8 in a while. Another reason I want to save my tokens and not try to start the Apex more or the F1 LM more if I can help it, is because that, well, I talked about this in a little bit in a previous video, but apparently next there is going to be a Ferrari season, because in a hotfix for this update, they accidentally showed the beginning screens of a Ferrari season with some stuff about the Ferrari Enzo and another Ferrari that I don't remember at the time. But yeah, probably those are going to be expensive, and so I wouldn't like to use the entirety of that bonus that Gameloft gave me for just like a couple cars in this update. I definitely want to try to keep some for the next update, so that is what I'm going to try to do. Now, this race here is a very close one of the closest I had in the season, against another Legions United member named JESKO. Now, Osaka is one of the tracks where you can really see that this car's bad acceleration does not really hamper it a whole lot, and its really good drifting goes into play, and it really feels like it has a lot better than just 66 drifting. It feels like it has 80 or something like that, as a comment put it. Oh, and it's always best to shockwave over that little bit of sidewalk back there. For some reason, I think because it's so large, if you just use Perfect Nitro, your car slows down after all, and yeah, definitely best to use shockwave there if you can. Now here, we cross the finish line very close to each other, but JESKO takes the win. GG, man. At this point, I was getting quite close to Elite League, only 17 points away, which I knew I could do in a single race. So after a couple of races, I finally came across this one with 6 people, all in Pro League like myself, so there were no people in this race that had already gotten to Elite, which helped me know that most likely they weren't going to be extremely good players, so I knew I had possibly a better shot in this one than in some of my other races. So I was going to just try to play it as best as I could. Someone already got knocked down, so I knew I probably had a pretty good chance. Now it's time for my general review about this car. It is the new B-Class King. I mean, you're going to want to get this one to 3 or 4 stars if you have enough tokens to do so, I would say. This is definitely definitely a very good card to go for. Probably better, I would argue, than even the Valhalla. Kinda wish I had left my Valhalla at less stars and gone for more stars on this one, but oh well, what's past is past. I'm going to try to win this one at 3 stars. It has the highest top speed in Class B, just as high as the 570S, if maybe not slightly higher. It's got very good drifting, quite good handling and nitro efficiency, if not the very best. Its acceleration is definitely its weakest point, and although it's not terrible, perhaps you might fall behind in some Gold League races toward the beginning, but I think that very high top speed and very good agility will definitely make up for that. So after a heart-pounding race, we take the victory and finally make it to Elite League. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!